year, we started this power lecture series in partnership with key people in the industry, sa media industry. We're very, very pleased to continue this partnership with them and even more today. Our goal was to understand the workings of a very complex industry in a way that journalists, like many of you here, can effectively communicate it to Filipinos or various audiences. It's encouraging to see that our initiative from last year has brought us together again today here at the Cell Hotel. And we are joined by close to 50, I think my number is wrong, I heard it's more like 60 plus, right? People, guests from national and regional media who cover the energy industry. A follow-up to last year's Power 101. So today's Power 102, right? This is a follow-up to last year's Power 101, which we held in October 2023. Again, with the help of with many partners. This evening brings together, this event brings together key representatives from the energy sector to foster a diverse and comprehensive discussion on many things, so things like policy frameworks, the opportunities and challenges in the energy industry, all in all, towards the growth of the renewable energy industry and the power industry in general. I encourage you all to engage actively in the sessions, network with your peers, exchange ideas, and most importantly, if there's one thing that I want you to remember from what I'm going to say today is, please ask questions. Magtanong po tayo at linawin natin ang mga hindi natin naiintindihan. It is through these interactions that we can forge partnerships, discover new opportunities, and leave this event smarter and better informed. We hope that you continue to join us in these events that we're organizing so that we can help everyone learn more about our growing energy sector. Your participation is crucial in advancing our shared understanding and that the reporting that will have more informed reporting on the complexities of the energy industry. So, without further ado, tayo po ay magsisimula na ng ating programa and allow me to introduce our first guest. Okay, our first guest and speaker is Dr. Rowena Cristina L. Guevara. She is the Undersecretary of the Department of Energy, supervising the Renewable Energy Management Bureau and Electric Power Industry Management Bureau. She is seconded from the Electrical and Electronics Engineering Institute of the University of the Philippines in Diliman. Dr. Guevara previously served as the President and CEO of the National Transmission Corporation and as Undersecretary for Research and Development of the Department of Science and Technology, or the DOST. She led the DOST Science for Change program, tinatawag na S4CP, that democratized research and development in the country. S4CP received the United Nations Public Service Award in 2022. Congratulations. Her government service spans over 37 years, including deanship in the UP College of Engineering from 2004 to 2010, and she received several awards in engineering, education, and public service, including the 2010 Metrobank Outstanding Teachers of the Philippines and the 2018 Gawad Career Executive Service Presidential Award. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Undersecretary Guevara.
Thank you, Mr. Suarez. A pleasant morning to everyone here. I will say good energy to all of you. So I see some friends from the private sector, patayuin natin sila pagre-reciting ko mamaya. May I request those from the renewable energy private sector to please stand up. They will be your lecturers later on. Thank you very much. And I would also like to request all of those from media to please stand up so I know who you are. Let's do it. Thank you very much, everyone. Of course, I would like to thank Miss Andrea from the Department of Energy. Please stand up. It's the reason why I am here. I dare not say no to Andrea. So, I know this is called Power 102, but there are some things that I need to talk to you about to make sure that we're on the same page. So, next slide, please. I will start with an overview of the Philippines power sector. Review basic concepts. I call it Power 101 para wala tayong mali sa terminologies natin. Then I'll discuss the Philippine Energy Plan and the economic impact of energy. And the second half of my talk will be about renewable energy, the challenges, the opportunities. By the way, I will not be covering gas and oil because that is covered by Undersecretary Sandy Sales. I will also not talk about nuclear that is covered by Undersecretary Sharon Green. I will not talk about energy efficiency and conservation that is covered by Undersecretary Wimpy Fedebella. And I will not talk about offshore wind ports because that is covered by Undersecretary Joby Bacordo. So I'm telling you these names such that when you have questions about those topics, you will know which Undersecretary to ask. Next slide, please. So the Department of Energy is mandated to prepare, integrate, coordinate, supervise, and control all plans, programs, projects, and activities of the government related to energy exploration, development, utilization, distribution, and conservation. May I request the organizers, please, to make sure that by 12 noon, the PDF file of my presentation is given to all the attendees. So that you don't have to take photos pangit kung... Pero 12 noon, para sure na nasa inyo na para magamit na agad. Alright. The mission of the department, in partnerships with our stakeholders, shall improve the quality of life of the Filipino people by formulating, implementing policies and programs to ensure sustainable, stable, secure, sufficient, accessible, and reasonably priced. So maraming tao laging galit sa DOE, bakit mahal ang kuryente? Sabi nga namin, reasonably priced. I will explain that later. Now, our vision is to be globally competitive, powering up Filipino communities through clean, efficient, robust, and sustainable energy systems that will create wealth, propel industries, and transform the lives and women of generations to come. Next slide. So, ito na, umpisa ng ating Power 101. The power sector is divided into 4 sectors. Generation, sila yung nag-generate ng electricity. Transmission, siya yung high voltage dadali niya from the generation to the distribution utility. Then the distribution utility are the ones in charge of bringing the electricity to your homes. Meron din mga industrial companies nakadiretso na connect sa transmission kasi ang kailangan nilang power, higher voltage than what is being given by the distribution utility and also higher power para padala sa kanila. Now, the distribution sector consists of electric cooperatives and private distribution utilities. The electric cooperatives are all under the National Electrification Administration. Lastly, the fourth component are the users. There are residential users, which are the largest number. And then we have commercial users like businesses, retail establishments, and offices. And then we have industrial users. Industrial users are the manufacturers, mga industrial complexes, and so on. Industrial users often have dedicated substations. Kasi nga, mataas minsan yung power requirement nila. And then, their requirement for power quality is also high. Can you guess sino pinakamura sa tatlo? Residential, commercial, or industrial? Residential ang pinakamura. Ang pinakamahal is industrial because they require high quality. Some of them, yung mga residential, yung mga industrial, meron silang sariling generator set kasi pag bumagsak yung grid, kailangan kaya pa rin nilang mag-generate. Next slide. There is such a thing called Electric Power Industry Reform Act, EPIRA. It was made in 2001. And before EPIRA, the power sector was largely monopolized by the National Power Corporation, or NPC. NPC did the transmission, generation, and distribution is done by the DUs and the electric cooperatives. Ang naging problema, NPC encountered a lot of financial and operational challenges. Tapos, nagkaroon tayo ng maraming utang. Diba, pag tinitingnan niya yung electric union, meron pa tayong binabayaran na utang hanggang ngayon. Tapos, meron din mga problems about importing fuel. Tapos, nagka-problema rin tayo na we invested in the Bataan Nuclear Power Plant, but you never run it. But remember, we paid completely for BNPP. And there was limited private sector participation. The EPIRA, enacted in June 2001, marked a significant shift na unbundle na yung power sector. The generation is now owned by the private sector companies. So, ang nangyari, dahil na-privatize yung generation ng NPC, nag-grow talaga yung generation natin. In fact, the growth of the generation sector is such that the use of coal increased by 300+%, the renewable energy increased by 87%, and our consumption doubled, 111% increase. And then there were also the regulatory reforms. Dati may ERB, Energy Regulatory Board. Now we have the Energy Regulatory Commission regulating the power sector, ensuring fair competition and protecting consumer interests, and of course, setting the tariffs and the standards. So pagkamahal yung kuryente, ang sinisisi dapat ay, ang sabi nga. Now, EPIRA facilitated the restructuring of NPC's debts, reducing financial burden and improving creditworthiness. Thereby, we attracted more investments to the power sector. Next slide. In the government sector, there are several organizations. You know already the Department of Energy. We are the main implementer of EPIRA. The National Electrification Administration, or NEA, reviews and upgrades regulatory policies to enhance the viability of electric cooperatives. Pero may marching order of residents electric cooperatives. 3 things. Either they privatize, corporatize, or they aggregate. And you'll notice that some of them, imbis na nagre-renew ng franchise, they are beginning to become privatized. PISAM manages NPC at Transco. Siya ang mother company ng Transco at saka ng NAPOCOR. Sa kanya yung assets and liabilities, saka continue pa rin siya nagpa-privatize. Yung latest niya na privatize is Kasagnan. Tapos this year, or maybe early next year, yun namang CBK. Ang maganda sa PISAM, dati, yung ating debt servicing from the power sector before EPIRA consisted 25% of our debt service. Ang laki, ano? But because of the efforts of PISAM, we are now down to 3% of the debt service coming from the power sector. So that is the last 23 years, reduction from 25% to the 3%. Transco is the owner of the grid. Nung na-decouple yung NPC into generation and transmission went to Transco. Kaso, by 2009, ang Transco nagkaroon ng concession agreement with the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, NGCP. So now the transmission is being managed, operated, and expanded by NGCP. Now, NPC continues to generate and sell electricity from undisposed assets to IPPs, dependent power producers. And NPC has a very important role. Sa kanya yung mga ayaw puntahan ng private sector. So for example, the islands, most of our islands are still operated by NAPOCOR. Sa kanya yung generation, kanya yung transmission, sometimes pati distribution, kanya pati. So, yung missionary electrification natin, main player is the National Power Corporation. The second player for our electrification is the electric cooperatives. Mandate talaga nila yan. So usually, electric cooperatives, hindi sila napa-privatize in places that are not yet economically feasible for the private sector. ERC is the independent quasi-judicial regulatory body that promotes competition, ensure customer choice, and penalize abuse of market. PEPC governs the wholesale electricity spot market or ESSA, and IMAP is a market operator. Next slide, please. So, balik tayo sa 101. No? Pag bagong gawa yung planta ng generator at tingnan mo yung nameplate niya, ang makikita mo doon ay yung tinatawag na installed capacity. So, hindi mo yan makikita unless puntahan mo yung planta, tingnan mo yung generator. And nameplate siya. Kanya na lang, habang tumatagal ang panahon, bumababa yung output ng generator. So, ang nagiging tawag dyan ay dependable capacity na lang. But on a day-to-day basis, sometimes may masisira doon sa planta, ang may lalabas na lang niya yung tinatawag na available capacity. So, makita mo, pababa ng pababa yan. Pero bawat generator, may minimum power in megawatts siya na kailangan niyan i-generate. Pag bumaba ka sa pigil, mag-shutdown yung planta. Most plants consist of several units. So, sasabihin mo, maririnig mo, PEDC 1, PEDC 2, PEDC 3 for Panay Island. Kasi 3 units yan. And independently, they can run. Tapos they can also run together. Now, most plants are classified as renewable or non-renewable. Fossil fuels are coal, oil, gas. Renewables, mamaya ko yung ikwento. Next slide. Under normal conditions, you have enough supply for the demand and the reserve. So hindi pwedeng demand lang. Kailangan may reserve, may margin. The system frequency, voltage, and transmission lines and equipment are working with the normal operating limits, and the grid configuration allows for interruption and isolation of any fault current. That is the normal condition. Yung nasa left, lahat ng requirements mo nandyan. Demand, and then the reserves. So you have contingency reserve, you have regulating reserve, and you have dispatchable reserve. Pakinggan nyo itong maigi kasi dito lagi malihim na yung mga reports. Ang buong power system, meron isang malaking planta. Sa Luzon, 688 megawatts yan. Pag yung planta na yan, bumagsak, kailangan mag-kick in yung contingency reserve. So, gano'ng kalaki dapat contingency reserve? Dapat kasi lang siya ng largest plant. So, 688 megawatts for Luzon, 150 megawatts for Visayas, 150 megawatts for Mindanao. So, the contingency reserve is hot. Ibig sabihin, nakakapit siya sa grid, naka-on siya. Ready siya na mag-take over. So, parang yung generator sa mga mall, di ba? Pag bigla nag-brown out, bigla pasok na kaagad yung generator. So, parang ganun yung contingency reserve. Pagka inaandar mo na yung contingency reserve, mag-yellow alert na. Pagka yung contingency reserve na zero, naubos siya kasi kunyari, 688 megawatts yung planta na bumagsak, so pinandar mo yung contingency reserve, no? We will go into red alert. So yun yung kaibahan, no? Yellow at saka red alert. It's explained here, no? Now, in April and May, ang dami natin red alert, yellow alert, umuulan talaga, araw-araw. Ako sirang-sira talaga yung araw-araw ng April at saka May. Mula April 15 hanggang June. Pero, ang nami-miss palagi i-report ng ating mga kasamahan sa media ay, oo, may yellow alert, may red alert, wala namang blackout. So the alerts are just alerts to make people maybe turn off their air conditioner, huwag mag-plancha during the peak hours, and so on. Kasi pag nagtipid ka, hindi tayo pupunta sa red alert at yellow alert lang tayo. So even our countrymen and countrywomen, natutunan na nila na pag red alert or pag yellow alert, kailangan magtipid ng kuryente. Yan yung pakikisama ng ating mga kababayan. Pero pagka nakita mo sa news, red alerts, nakakatakot eh. Pero actually, it's just making people alert. But it's not really a brownout or a blackout. So, malinaw na sa atin ito, no? Next slide. The generation sector has the fossil fuel-based power plants na mention natin kanina. Pansinin nyo na yung coal is our largest supplier of energy, about 60%. Ngayon yung liquefied natural gas, bagong player yan. Dati kasi we have enough Malampaya natural gas to support our nat gas power plants. Kanya nga lang, nade-deplete na yung capacity ng Malampaya. So we have to come up with liquefied natural gas plants. Ang kaibahan lang yan, pagka dineliver yung liquefied natural gas, which is important, kailangan mo pag i-regasify yan. So from liquid to gas. Pagka naging gas siya, saka lang siya pwede gamitin ng power plant. Unlike galing siya sa Malampaya, diretso gas na siya. Wala nang liquefaction na kailangan gawin. Now, for renewable energy, para tandaan yung big show. Biomass, geothermal, solar, hydro, ocean, wind. Big show. Para matandaan niyo lahat ng mga yun. Next slide. Ang tinatawag na base load. Yung base load, kamukha ng pinapakita dito, mga coal yan, geothermal, and biomass. Uy! Geothermal and biomass, pwede silang base load. So yun lang yung dalawang klase ng renewables na pwede base load. Ang base load dapat constant yan, tapos kailangan tumakbo 24 hours. And then you have the intermediate load plants like natural gas. Sila yung nag-fill up ng gap between peaking at saka noong base load. They are fast acting. So pagka umakyat yung demand, dapat kaya nila umakyat agad. Now, peaking plants, ito yung mga mahal na planta. Nagamit yan diesel, bunker, and sometimes hydro. They provide power during the system demand. Wait, you give me a better time. It keeps going up and down. Thank you. Now, the peaking plants are very, very fast in reacting. Kaya sila po yung pinakamahal. Ayaw natin paranggalin ng peaking plants kasi pag binandal mo yung peaking plants, tataas ang presyo ng kuryente. So for example, during summer, we were having high heat index. So lahat ng tao nag-turn on na air conditioner. The phone is normally 12.5. Luzon is usually 12.5 megawatts. Thank you very much. So Luzon usually 12.5 megawatts yan. Pero during summer, umabot siya ng 14.5 megawatts. 14.5 gigawatts. So, saan mo kukunin yung 2.5 na yun? Siyempre, kukunin mo yun sa mga peaking plants. Kaya yung presyo ng kuryente natin, tataas talaga. Of course, meron mga ginagawang programa yung mga distribution utility natin, yung tinatawag na anti-price shock. So, yung itinakyat ng presyo ng kuryente sa April at May, dinidistribute nila hanggang August or September bill. Kaya hindi nyo masyadong mararamdaman. Next slide. Here is a visual representation of the stacking of the power plant. So you have the base load sa ilalim, and then you have the intermediate, and then you have the peak. Pero kulay yellow dyan, yung kulay yellow yan yung mga solar power plant. Ang solar power plant kasi, pagka may cloud, biglang babagsak yung kanyang production. So pag bumagsak yung production niya, kailangan mag-take over ng mga peaking plants. Currently, we have only one renewable energy peaking plant, which is the Kalayaan Pump Storage Hydro. Isa lang siya. Pero we know that there are some renewable energy developers that are going after pump storage hydro. And siguro by 2029 to 2032, magkakaroon tayo ng 3.2 gigawatts na pump storage hydro. So maganda sa kanila, they can actually follow yung changes ng mga variable renewable like solar and wind. So pag umakyat yung supply ng solar, pwedeng i-absorb ng pump storage hydro. Pag bumagsak naman yung solar at wind, pwede naman umanda yung mga pump storage hydro as generators. So, kailangan talaga natin ng pump storage hydro in the near future to help us regulate the variability in the power grid due to variable renewable energy. Next slide. The National Grid Corporation maintains, operates, and develops the country's high voltage transmission network. It took over the operation of Transco through a 25-year concession agreement. But the franchise given to them by Congress is 50 years. So after 25 years, pwedeng mag-renewal ng concession agreement. Now, for off-grid areas, the Small Power Utilities Group managed by the National Power Corporation is responsible for providing electricity. Alam naman natin yung mga off-grid areas natin, sila ay tumatakbo using diesel. Ang nakakaawa dito sa ating off-grid areas, the price of electricity starts from about 14 pesos per kilowatt hour. Ang pinakamahal sa kanila, 62 pesos per kilowatt hour. But they don't pay the total amount. They only pay what is the approved rate from ERC. So, sino nagbabayad ng kulang? This is the universal charge for missionary electrification that all of the consumers pay. Nakikita niyo yan sa electric bill niya, yung CME. Doon pumupunta yan. Para naman hindi kawawa yung mga nandun sa mga malalayong lugar na sobrang mahal talaga ng tunay na presyo ng kuryente. And it is NPC that takes care of that. NGCP, before, magkakaiwalay yung Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao as island grids. Pero, noong January, nakabit na yung Mindanao, Visayas Interconnection Project. With MVIP, we have an entire Luzon to Mindanao grid. And then, in March, nabukas na rin yung CNP3, this is Cebu Negros Panay Project number 3. It allowed 2 lines going into Panay Island. Kaya napansin ninyo, di ba nagkaroon ng blackout ng January sa Panay? Sabi namin ako, pag mataas na ang heat index sa April, baka magkaroon ulit ng blackout sa Panay. Fortunately, noong March, na-energize ng CNP3. So dati, ang nakukuha lang ng Panay, yung nanggagaling dun sa Negros. Meron kasing Negros Panay na submarine cable, 180 megawatts yan. So dahil nagkaroon ng CNP3, may second source siya, another 180. Kaya even tumaas talaga yung consumption ng Panay. Ang usual niya is about 300 to 400 megawatts. But we noticed in summer, nagpa 500 to 600 megawatts yung Panay Island. Pero kinakaya dahil nandun na yung dalawang linya pakasagsikan. So that is the job of the National Grid Corporation, to make sure that we have enough transmission to support the entire country's generation. Next slide. As of April 2024, the installed and dependable capacities were reported at 28,625 megawatts and 24,925 megawatts respectively. Another way of calling this is 28.6 gigawatts and 24.9 gigawatts. Mas madali kasing magsabi ng gigawatts kaysa megawatts. Madaming number yung megawatts. When it comes to supply or capacity mix, we see that fossil fuels remain dominant. The country's year-to-date peak demand was 19,274 megawatts. This occurred last April 24. Talagang yung aming forecast, our forecast was about 18,800 megawatts. Nilagpasan talaga this year because of the high heat index. Next slide. Here's the typical 24-hour load profile in the country. Ang peak hours po natin, 11 a.m., 2 p.m., at 7 p.m. Sana po huwag mag-turn on ng aircon during that time. Kasi pag nag-on ka ng aircon, taas na load ka agad na, biglang sisipa yung demand. So, The load profile is a graph of the variation in electrical load versus time. Hindi mo naman mag-predict kung kailan magpapatakbo ng planta sa manufacturing plant. So, pag bigla siyang tumakbo o bigla siyang mawala, magkakaroon talaga ng effect yan sa ating load profile. And the load profile also changes with the months. Next slide. And you can see here that from 1 a.m. up to 12 midnight, nagpapalit yung ating load. Pero mapansin nyo, during the first quarter of the year, mababa yung ating load profile. Bakit? Ay maraming kasi pag January at February. Pero mapansin mo, pagdating ng second quarter at third quarter, nandiyan kasi yung summer months natin, umaakyat yung demand natin. Pag fourth quarter, November, December, palamig na naman ulit, bababa na naman yung ating load profile. So, yung ating mga generation plant, they are not allowed to do shutdown maintenance during the months of summer. Kasi kailangan natin sila sa load natin. So, pwede sila during the first quarter or during the fourth quarter. We ask all our generators, except hydro. Kasi ang hydro, pag April at May at June, doon sila nag-maintenance dahil walang tubig sa summer. So, during the months of summer, we request all of the generators to stay on. Pero actually, ang nangyari, during the month of April 15 hanggang April 30, about 28 plants were on forced shutdown. Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng mga red at sa yellow alerts. Next slide. This is important graph. No? Bihira namin ito pinapakita. I think this is the first time I showed this in public. This is the average electricity rates in the country last May. 5.93 pesos per kilowatt hour in Casueco. 19 pesos and 1 centavo per kilowatt hour in Oriental Mindoro. The three largest distribution utility, si Visayas Electrico, 9.71 pesos per kilowatt hour, si Meralco, 9.45 pesos per kilowatt hour, si Davao Light, 7.94 pesos per kilowatt hour. Meralco is the largest deal, covering more than 40% of electricity consumers. However, Meralco does not offer the lowest rate. So you ask, bakit? Meralco, di ba malaki siya? Pinakamalaki, may economies of scale siya. Bakit hindi siya pinakamura? Any idea? Meron tayong tinatawag na reliability. Di ba kahit bumabagyo, hindi nawawala ng ilang sa Meralco franchise? Dahil they spend money to make sure that the distribution lines are strong enough to withstand typhoons. And they also make sure that after typhoon, kung may bumagsak man na linya, ang bilis talaga ng repair nila. So, reliability, yung sigurado ka na may kuryente ka of good quality all the time, there is really a price to pay. At the Philippines, sabi ng NEDA, by 2025, hindi na tayo low middle income country, magiging high middle income country na tayo. Pag naging high middle income country tayo, people will start demanding reliable power. And so it is our hope that the cooperatives will improve the reliability of their system. Because that is the only way for them to be providing the demand of their customers. And again, I say this, there is a price to pay for reliability. Next slide. Mahal ba talaga tayo sa lahat ng mundo sa presyo ng kuryente? Pag titignan mo dito, Meralco lang yung nakandito. This is a study made by the International Energy Consultants. You see, Meralco siya yung nakakulay-kulay. 7% lower siya than the world average price. The world average price is 10 pesos per kilowatt hour. Pero may interesting dito, yung mga katabi nating bansa, Thailand, Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, makita mo may light blue sila na shade. Yung light blue na shade, yan yung kanilang subsidy from their government. It is 36 to 66% subsidy. There is sa Malaysia, paano siya subsidize? Di ba may petrol na siya, may sarili siyang crudo. So, yung price ng electricity nila, subsidized by the government. On the average, those countries subsidize 50% of the expenditure of electricity. Kung sabihin bigla ng mga Pilipino, paki-subsidize din yung electricity ng Pilipinas. Alam mo kung magkano siya? It's about 587 billion pesos. Ang tanong ko sa inyo, saan natin kukunin yung 587 billion pesos? Pero siyempre sa tax, tayo pa rin ang magbabayad. So, when I hear people say, mahal ang kuryente sa Philippines, please keep this in mind. We are 7% lower than the world's average. Those countries na masyadong mahal yung nandoon sa left, imported kasi lahat ng kanilang fuels. And that is the reason why we are pushing for renewable energy. Kasi independence sa fossil fuel, yun talaga nagpapataas ng presyo ng kuryente. Yun naman mga mura-mura dito sa baba, mataas ang renewable energy nila. Next slide. In the DOE's National Total Electrification Roadmap from 2023 to 2032, it was assessed that the cost of total electrification from 2024 to 2028 is 72 billion pesos. Napakamahal po, ano? Pero we did a study, we used the Philippine Statistics Authority data and Department of Energy data, and we computed, if a household becomes electrified from 0 to 8 hours, so dati wala siyang kuryente, bigyan mo siya ng walang oras, we noticed that yung income nila nag-i-improve by 17.9%. Tapos yung expenditure nag-i-improve by 17%. Now, if you increase the access to electricity from 8 hours to 16 hours, the income increases by 33.3%, the expenditure by 33%. And ito yung pinakagrabe. If you give electricity from 16 hours to 24 hours, buong araw may kuryente na siya. The income can increase by as much as 49.4% and the expenditure by 52.2%. Ang ganda ng picture, di ba? Ilan ba ang ating mga kababayan na wala pang kuryente? More than 2 million households. Kaya 72 billion will power up those households. We computed, what is the return on investment? If the government invests 72 billion in the next few years until 2028, and we achieve 100% electrification, meaning to say 24 hours of kuryente all over the country, that is equivalent to 315 billion pesos of economic contribution, or 1.8% of the GDP. So yung 72 billion, mapakonvert mo to 315 billion. So, the Department of Energy, we did a presentation to the MEDA and to the Department of Finance last week. So, first time nila din nakita tong picture na to. And they are excited about this. And we hope that the excitement will convert into funding the National Power Corporation and the National Electrification Administration for total electrification by 2023. Next slide. The energy strategic direction of DOE aligns with the Ambition Act 2040 and the President's 8-point socio-economic agenda, with focus on protecting the family purchasing power and creating job opportunities. Using this direction, we developed the Philippine Energy Plan. Next slide. The Philippine Energy Plan has the following outlook. There is the reference scenario, or business as usual. We're targeting 35% renewable energy by 2030 and 50% by 2040. Yung susunod na dalawang scenario, CES 1 and CES 2, Clean Energy Scenario 1, ito very aggressive, no? We are targeting over 50% RE share by 2050, and we will have nuclear 1,200 by 2032, an additional 1,200 by 2035, and another 12,400 megawatts by 2050. And 90 gigawatts of offshore wind. Kaya dito yung mga offshore wind developers, excited sila dito. Pero mas exciting yung CES 2. CES 2 is like CES 1, except in this na 19 gigawatts offshore, we will shoot for 50 gigawatts of offshore wind. Imagine mo yung 50, remember sabi ko kanina, ang total capacity natin ngayon, 28 gigawatts. So you can imagine what 50 gigawatts of offshore wind will look like. Next slide. In the reference scenario, the electricity consumption is projected to reach 4 times of the current electricity consumption. In the said scenario, the electricity usage in transportation sector is anticipated to rise in 2050, going from 5 terawatt hours to 20 terawatt hours. So times 4. Saan manggagaling yun? Remember, popular na ngayon yung electric vehicles. So we imagine that by 2050, the penetration of electric vehicles will be about 50%. So yung consumption ng electricity, hindi na lang dun sa residential, industrial, commercial, meron na rin transportation. Industry and household sectors are also expected to remain the primary contributors to electricity consumption. Next. May nag-alala sa akin. Si Chairman. Alright. So, by 2050, the aggregate renewable energy capacity will dominate the country's capacity mix under the reference test scenario. Due to substantial expansions of hydro, wind, solar energy sources. Notably, natural gas remains a prominent component in the capacity mix. So, tingnan mo yung natural gas. And the reason is that we need it for our transition. When you do energy transition, you go from fossil fuel to a lot of variable renewable energy. Sabi natin, pag nawala yung wind, wala tayong wind. Pag nawala yung araw, wala tayong solar. So to take care of that, we need liquefied natural gas power plants to follow the variation of those renewable energy. Under the CES scenario, the RE share will peak at 74.4%. So, taas ng ating target for the CES. Next slide. The RE share in power generation is projected to reach 56.9% by 2040 and 64.9% in 2050. Offshore wind and solar are targeted to be 81% of the renewable energy. Next slide. We do have energy transition strategies. This number 1 is accelerate RE development with special focus on offshore wind. Remember, offshore wind lang on Executive Order 21 requiring all government agencies to facilitate the development of offshore wind. And if you have a lot of renewables, you're going to need a smart and green grid. Bakit siya smart? Kasi papalit-palit yung output ng mga variable renewable energy. So talagang nakakasunod yung ating grid. And then, it is green because majority of the supply is going to be coming from renewable energy. And then, sabi nga natin, offshore wind special child talaga yan. So, kailangan natin magtayo ng mga offshore wind ports. Madaming ports ang Philippines, pero wala sa kanilang qualified for offshore wind ports. Kasi sa offshore wind ports, may kailangan tinatawag na lay-down area. Nakita niyo naman kung gaano katangkad yung mga towers ng offshore wind facilities. Tapos yung turbina pa nila, no? Ang hinihingi nilang lay-down area sa amin, 12 hectares. Tapos yung load, dahil mabibigat yan ng mga bakal, sobrang bigat, wala talagang qualified na port tayo. So we need to build offshore wind ports. Fortunately, we have a study being done by the Asian Development Bank. Meron tayong 10 identified na offshore wind ports that will pre-feasibility studies nila. Tapos ang maganda, the government identified 2 ports that it will fund next year for offshore wind. Ang balang isama siya sa General Appropriations Act. So, target natin, next year may 4 tayong tatayo. So by 2026, dapat ready na siya para sa construction ng ating offshore wind developers. Such that by 2028, we should have our first kilowatt hour out from our offshore wind front-runner developers. And then, number 4 strategy is the voluntary and early decommissioning or repurposing of coal power plants. We have 58 coal power plants in the country. About 3 gigawatts or 20 of them are more than 20 years old. Coal power plants nagiging inefficient siya over time. But it is possible to repurpose them. For example, in some countries, they have coal firing. So coal plus ammonia, or coal plus hydrogen, or coal plus biomass. These are ways of making sure that we are transitioning even our coal power plants. And then there's energy efficiency and conservation. So when all else fail, mag-conserve tayo ng kuryente. Next slide. The Philippines is highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. In fact, the high heat index in April and May resulted in a lot of red renewable rates. Renewable energy is crucial for the Philippines in addressing the challenges of climate change and also to boost the economy. For every gigawatt of renewable energy, it will generate 1,000 green jobs. Pag sinabi mong green jobs, nagtatrabaho sila sa renewable energy development. Of course, after the construction, bababa yung number. But sa dami na i-construct nating renewable energy plants, the work opportunity is going to be there. Next slide. Do you know why we're targeting 35% renewable energy by 2030? Ito medyo nakakalungkot ano. Yung Renewable Energy Act, ginawa yan noong 2008. Noong 2008, ang RE natin sa Philippines was 35%. Tapos bumaba na bumaba, ngayon nasa 22% lang yung ating renewable energy in the generation mix. Kasi madami tayong pumasok ng mga coal plants. So this is something that I would like you to understand. Pag nag-decide ka magtatayo ka ng coal plant today, pag umpisa ka mag-generate 5 to 10 years from now, mahaba talaga yung planning at sa development. Hindi siya instant. So even though we approved 1,300 renewable energy service contracts, they are not going to come next year. Some of them will take 5 to 7 years to develop, like pump storage hydro. Wind, it takes 5 to 8 years to develop. Solar ang pinakamabilis, no? Solar, if you own the land, you can actually construct the solar power plant in 8 months to 2 years. So iba-iba yung speed of development nila. What kept RE from developing that fast? Well, number 1 is access to financing. Alam mo, when we computed the amount that we need to do the transition from business as usual to clean energy scenario, the total amount, 2/3, kayang i-fund ng local banks natin. Ganun ka-liquid yung local banks. Kaya nga lang, when we had a meeting with local banks, ang una nilang tinanong dun sa offshore wind developer, anong collateral mo? Bibigay mo ba sa akin yung seabed? Sabi namin, sir, yung pong seabed, ang may-ari po niya ay ang bansang Pilipinas. Hindi po yan pwedeng ibigay as collateral. So, ang sanay kasi yung mga bangko, di ba pag utang ka sa bahay, ang collateral mo, yung titulo ng lupa. Wala namang titulo ng lupa yung mga offshore wind developers. What they have is the service contract. The service contract can actually be the collateral. Kaya lang, we still have to teach our banks how to fund renewables. So, bait naman ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, sa August, papatawag nila yung mga bangko and they are going to invite renewable energy developers, international funding agencies, para turuan yung mga bangko natin kung paano mag-project financing ng mga renewables. Bakit? Namasayang yung opportunity kasi napakalaking industriya ng power para hindi sumama yung mga bangko natin na mag-invest. Next slide. To further accelerate nationwide renewable energy development, we have fiscal incentives. Special chance talaga ang RE. So pwede may income tax holiday, meron din silang duty-free importation for the first 10 years. So pag pumapasok yung mga equipment nila, duty-free na. Tapos meron din silang mga realty tax, etc. Tapos 0% value-added tax rate. So with these incentives, these are fiscal incentives, nakita naman namin na nag-grow yung renewable energy from 2008 to 2024. Pero, next slide. To further accelerate nationwide renewable energy development, we have come up with several policies. Number one, preferential dispatch in the wholesale electricity spot market. So bago i-dispatch yung mga fossil fuel, unang-una yung mga renewables. Second, the renewable portfolio standards that requires an increase of 2.52% per year in the share of RE among mandated participants. So kunyari yung distribution utility nyo, kunyari 100% siya ngayon na fossil fuel, kailangan mag-increase by 2.52% per year yung share ng renewable dun sa kanyang portfolio ng generator. So, for those of you who belong to an electric cooperative, si member kayo, di ba? You have to make sure that your electric cooperative is buying renewable energy every year para mag-i-increase your share ng renewable energy sa generation niyo. And then there's also the renewable energy market for trading renewable energy certificates. There are other mechanisms. Ang ginawa ko, pinasama ko siya dun sa materials na ibigay sa inyo by 12. Organizers tayo naman yun, ano? Yes? Is that clear? Kaya ibigay yung PDF nito sa kanila by 12. Alright, thank you. Next slide. As of January 2024, there are 128 renewable energy generation companies in the country operating 188 generating facilities. 178 of the facilities are on the main grid and 10 are off-grid. In Luzon, there are 108 generating facilities, in Visayas 40, and in Mindanao also 40. Next slide. So these are the things that are helping our industry. Number one, there's such a thing called competitive selection process. So distribution utility or electric cooperative, meron yung power supply agreement. And tinatawag natin bilateral agreement. So sasabihin niya kunyari kay generator A, for the next 20 years, I will buy 20 megawatts from you. And then, another generator B sasabihin niya, for the next 5 years, I will buy 5 megawatts for you. And they also clarify na, ang bibilin ko sa iyo base load, ang bibilin ko sa iyo intermediate. Para alam ng planta kung kailan siya hihingin. So pag base load ka, 24/7 dapat umaandar ka. Ngayon, the power supply agreements, bago pa sila mapasok, bago mag-expire yung agreement, 2 years before that, kailangan mag-conduct ng competitive selection process in distribution utility. Competitive selection process, bidding yan, bababaan ng presyo yung mga generators. And then, kailangan din mag-comply with the renewable portfolio standard ng distribution utility. So, kailangan isa siyang requirement, renewable energy. Sasabihin niya kung ano yung kailangan niya. Solar, solar plus battery, hydro, etc. Tapos 2 years before na kakailanganin niya, kailangan niya mag-conduct ng CSP. Kasi nga hindi instant ang development ng mga planta. Next slide. We also have the Green Energy Auction Program. Ito auction na naman ito, bababaan ng presyo. This is an innovative initiative that fosters competition through electronic bidding. In June 2022, we bid out successfully 1,800 megawatts. Tapos, last year, we bid out 3,440 megawatts. This is an exciting year. Kasi this year, meron tayong Green Energy Auction number 3. For GAIA 3, ang target namin ay geothermal, pump storage hydro, run-of-river hydro, sa impounding hydro. We are bidding out, I think, more than 3,000 megawatts. Ngayon, di ba nasabi ko sa inyo kanina yung variability ng RE, napapahirapan yung ating transmission. So sabi namin, for Green Energy Auction number 4, which is also happening this year, ang aming ibibid out ay RE plus Energy Storage System. Ano yung Energy Storage System or ESS? Battery. Kasi pwede mo siyang i-charge, saka discharge. pump storage hydro. Pwede mong i-pump yung water, tapos babagsak siya, ikutin yung turbina, produce siya ng electricity. Pwede din yung flywheel. Alam mo ba yung flywheel? Nakakita na kayo ng trumpo. Di ba yung trumpo, ikutan mo yan, halos mo ikot siya. Ganon din si flywheel, i-charge mo siya, i-wind siya, tapos pag nirelease siya, ikot siya pabaliktad, mag-generate siya. So there's a flywheel company in the country actually. And we're hoping that they will be able to join the RE plus ESS Green Energy Auction number 4. Originally, we're thinking of 8,200 megawatts for the 4, pero baka itataas namin kasi nakita namin na nag-overtake talaga yung fossil fuel kaysa sa renewable. So for example, this year, ang aming papasok na bagong generation, 2,000 megawatts na fossil, tapos 2,000 megawatts din na renewable. Kasi yung solar na renewable na 2,000, 16% lang ang kanyang availability factor. So in a day, hindi naman buong araw may araw, di ba? So imbis na kunyari 100 megawatts siya, makapunin siya ng 100 megawatts times 24 hours. Hindi eh. Mga 6 hours lang talaga siya full production. So ang production niya, kung 100 megawatts siya, parang equivalent lang siya sa 16 megawatts. So pag sinamahan mo siya ng battery, hindi maganda. Kunyari 100 megawatts yung planta, hihingi niya sa NGCP, 100 megawatts din na niya. Pero kung mag-charge siya ng battery, or flywheel, or pump storage hydro, imbis na 100 megawatts yung kailangan niya, pwedeng mas mababa, pwedeng 75 megawatts na lang. Kasi gagamitin niya yung ibang solar power niya para mag-charge ng battery. Tapos maganda, paggabi, pwede yung output ng battery ipasok sa grid. So pwede yung solar power plant mo, hindi lang siya 6 hours mag-operate. Pwede mong i-extend na 24 hours. So kaya yun yung reason kaya yung GAIA 4 is RE plus ESS. Ang pinaka-exciting na green energy auction will happen next year, GAIA 5. Ito ang labanan ng mga malalaki, offshore wind. So hindi megawatts ang pag-uusapan natin dyan, gigawatts. So this is going to happen next year, and we're still trying to push for a middle of the year green energy auction for offshore wind. Next slide. Now, the Philippines is actively leveraging renewable energy to align with the global energy transition. We ranked 60th in 2022, and bumaba yung ranking natin, number 72 lang tayo 2023. Pero nag-excel tayo sa energy security, nag-improve yung environmental sustainability score, pero bagsak tayo sa energy equity. Again, electrification natin. Kaya nga, we are improving also our targets and our achievements for electrification. Next slide. The Philippines implements comprehensive power policies, including RE targets, auctions, FIT, net metering, and tax incentives. Kaya naman, 4th best emerging market for clean energy investments in Philippines. The year before, we were number 11. So, ibig sabihin, investors are coming in to invest in renewable energy in the country. Kaya kailangan din natin improve yung permitting, in consenting, etc. para mas mabilis ma-develop yung mga renewable energy. In fact, according to Bloomberg Math, the country's growth in clean energy investment from 2021 to 2022 was a 40.56% increase. Next slide. The Philippine energy sector is estimated as a 630 billion peso industry. Currently, there are 226 generation companies with 593 power plants. We have 1 transmission concessionaire, we have NAPO Port, we have 484 Western participants, 141 distribution utilities, and 143 retail electricity suppliers, and 1 energy regulatory commission. I would like to acknowledge Chair Mona, nandito na siya. Good morning! Nag-iisa lang po sila at sila po nagre-regulate ng lahat ng yan. An estimated of 7.6 trillion peso investment is required for the Philippine Energy Plan 2020 to 2040 for us to reach 92.3 gigawatts by 2040. So, ang laki po nung kailangan investment, no? 7.6 trillion pesos. Our current household electrification is 91.15%, and the President has directed us to target 100% electrification by 2028. Next slide. Alam mo, last May 15, pinatawag kami ng SEBI para sa red and yellow alerts. We heard that some of the senators already had a prepared press release. So nakita namin the next day, yung press release ng mga senators, nothing about the answers that the Department of Energy gave. Sama ng loob namin. Sabi, galing-galing pa naman ang mga sagot namin, pero walang nag-report. Alam mo, information, parang makapulot yan. Tapos yung mga media person, parang kayong topiaries. Kayo nagsishake ng mga trees. The trees can look like those, or the trees can look like this. Depende kung paano nagsishake ng reporter with information. So our request from the energy sector is that let us shape our information into news that will be useful for our people. It should reflect both sides, and it should educate our people. So I hope that you are one with us in making sure that the Filipino people are well informed about the energy sector. And my last slide is a homework. Basahin niyo yung section 45 ng RA 9136 on cross ownership. Kasi madami tayong mga franchise for distribution utilities at saka electric cooperatives na nagre-renew ng franchise. And cross-ownership is something that I think our media should talk about. Maraming salamat for your attention.
Hello, my name is Alfredo Chico. I am a participant of the 101 last time, and now this one is the 102. And I'm so happy that a lot of local journalists from the regions, as well as national journalists from the Manila are here. Thank you po. Pasensya na sa iba, hindi na po nakaupo. Si Andrea, pag nakatayo yan hanggang nakali. Pasensya na po, but the full house po kami. So we'll allow a few questions from you. Yusef is going to answer it, but I'll fire some of the first few questions. You said, maybe first we can ask general questions about the outlook for summer 2025. No? We've experienced, sabi ko nga, yung na-blend ni Yusef is yung report palagi, red alert, yellow alert, which is actually true, talaga namang may yellow at red alert. But come 2025, how does it look like? Our power supply, are we going to do better? Are we going to do away with red and yellow alerts in 2025? Or the same thing will happen again?
2024 was a special year kasi El Niño. So that contributed to the high heat index during our summer. Fortunately, this year, we have 4,000 megawatts incoming power. 2,000 na fossil, 2,000 na renewable. Now, pag kinompute mo yung gigawatt hours ng mga yon, it is equivalent to an 18% increase. 18. Ang growth naman ng economy natin is about 6 to 6.6%. So, kung 18% ang growth ng ating generation, parang may 3 years tayo na breathing space. Just for the development for this year, kasi next year may papasok there. So for summer, we can see that 2025 summer will be much, much better than 2024. Pero, special attention to Visayas. Kasi kunyari nakita namin yung graph kahapon ng Bohol. You know yung Bohol, ang normal load niya is 90 megawatts. But in May, it went to 130 megawatts. That's a 50% increase.
Because of what?
Tourism. Fortunately, meron siyang linya na tumutulong Bohol Leyte, 138 kV. Kanya nga lang, pag bumagsak yung Bohol Leyte, kawawa talaga yung Bohol. So there are some areas na may potential congestion pa rin. Kasi hindi pa nakakahabol yung mga transmission development natin. So even if the generation is there, for certain areas, posible pa rin sila magka-red alert at yun.
So we're gonna have yellow and red alert still in 2025 or no more?
Probably in Visayas, yes. In Luzon, kasi sa Luzon halos lahat yung 4,000 megawatts natin. So, natapos na rin yung Hermosa San Jose line ng NGCP. I think they're going to inaugurate it this month. So, maganda na yung Luzon next year. Pero yung Visayas, hindi pa ganun kaganda. Mindanao, syempre wala talaga. Kasi 2/3 lang ng kanilang supply and demand.
Okay. I-request po natin yung ating mga journalists na gusto magtanong to raise your hand and maybe just stand and I will acknowledge you after the second question. This is related to coal. The Senate President told me in an interview a few months back that the DOE is not allowing more coal coal power plant construction in the Philippines. Question, are we allowing additional coal or ang focus natin ay RA, no more coal? What we have today is already enough. Or pwede pa rin pumasok yung additional coal power plants?
I like your question. Kasi dami talagang nagtatanong yan, ano? We have incoming coal, like Masinloc and Maribeles. Pero, they are exempt from the moratorium because they were proposed and approved before the moratorium for coal. Remember I said kanina, no? Coal developing any plant takes time. So ngayon lang sila mag-on. Pero before the moratorium pa sila na-provide. So another example is yung kay DMCI sa Palawan. I think 12.5 megawatts, papasok siya. Pero 20% biomass yun. So may renewable na rin siya. Saan maglalagay din siya ng wind. So the point here is that we cannot stop those coal developments that were approved before the moratorium. They're going to come in. But you're going to see the last of them coming in by next year. Tapos talagang full RD na papasok.
So how much more coal plants are we expected?
Yung nakalista na, yun.
So may ilan ba yun?
I think mga meron TBI, meron pala.
In terms of capacity, ilan megawatts yun?
In terms of capacity, parang 1,300 megawatts na.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's
So in other words, sa data na pinresent mo, hindi madi-dislodge ang coal as the major source of electricity in the Philippines in the next few years.
Mag-umpisang mag-overtake ang renewable sa 2028. Kasi yun yung nakita namin na tapos na yung mga mag-umpisa na mag-offshore wind tayo. Talagang you will wipe out na talaga yung coal by then.
Okay, that's good news. Let's accommodate the Yes, sir. What is your name?
I'm Ben Sanger from Regenio.
Go ahead, sir.
Ma'am, since when tanggal yung hydro sa list ng base load niya? Because as far as I remember, Mindanao base load namin hydro eh.
Hindi siya natanggal. Pag summer, wala sila kasi wala sila.
But I saw yung slide dahil nasabi mo yung nagmarag sa 5%. Anyway, may quarterly load profile pa tayo for Visayas and Mindanao kasi Luzon yung
We do have.
then related sa question ni Edwin, you were saying na wala ng coal. But aside from the proposal before the moratorium, are there other considerations not to approve coal? Because I saw the power profile for Mindanao. There's a sort up there in 2027, 270 megawatts. And I search it, it's expansion of FDC Villanueva. Now, you were saying that Mindanao has high reserves, 1,023 something 2023. Can you also give us the actual figure now for the reserves in Mindanao? Thank you, sir.
For Mindanao, the OTG's reserve is 150 megawatts. Hindi memoryado yung other reserves nila, but I get the information.
Yeah, but how about, are you still, despite the huge reserves, are you still approving the application of FDC to expand by 2027?
if qualified siya dun sa exempt from coal moratorium.
Yeah, I was saying,
Yeah.
aside from the period na-approve, are still there other considerations na mag-approve na because the higher, while it's good that we have high reserves, but also oversupply is expensive for the consumers.
Actually, magmula nung natayo yung MVIP, humihila ang Visayas ng 445 megawatts from Mindanao. So hindi kasama sa drawing ko yung bumabagsak yun dahil nagbibigay kayo papunta.
That is my next question. Kasi FDC actually is parent supply to Visayas. You give example of Bohol. But isn't it, there are studies that putting in more VREs than base loads is more, gives us better grid stability. Why not bring in more VREs in Visayas than add additional coal in Mindanao for Visayas?
Kaya muna po,
Sige, sir.
mali po yung ang VRE nag-stabilize ng grid. Baliktad po, they put instability in the grid. Kasi nga variable yung kanilang power. So, para mabalance mo yun, dapat may planta ka na ganun din kalaki na pag bumagsak to, aakyat to. Pag umakyat to, bababa ito. So, it really leads to instability of the grid. Kaya nga in-explain ko kanina, yung green energy option number 4 natin, ang requirement ng DOE is renewable energy plus energy storage system. Para paglabas ng kuryente, halos stable na siya.
Thank you. Sir, just one, okay, one last, sir, okay, tapos kasi may tatlo pa.
Rather than blame the teacher dun sa reportage ng yellow at saka red alert, nasa messaging nyo yan eh. Pero ikaw pa ng messaging. Why not, kung may red alert, sabihin nyo, okay yung aircon, conserve energy.
Okay,
Kasi,
thank you.
pero nahari reporting, hindi namin
Thank you.
So, messaging na lang siguro, wala nang blaming.
Thank you, thank you. Go ahead. So,
We do ask people to conserve energy during the yellow and red alerts. Thank you for reminding us.
okay. Tama naman, ang sinasabi niya lang is, huwag mo kaming sisihin pag nag-report kami ng yellow at red. Talaga namang yellow at red. Ang sinasabi mo naman is, please include in your report na hindi naman nauwi sa brownout. That's what you're saying.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Good morning, Joey Marzan po from Daily Guardian, Iloilo City. Nandun din po kayo sa aming Tuesday natin. Question ma'am, kasi we're in the region na medyo dihado talaga when it comes to the energy output, given na we only have one connection. And given that we also have renewable energy facilities, no, and another one coming through the NIA's Halaor River Mega Project. In the meantime, ma'am, na given na parang ganun pa rin yung scenario sa amin, everyday may yellow and red alerts sa lugar namin. In the meantime, na hindi pa tumataas yung output namin and wala pa kaming masyadong connections, hindi pa upgraded yung connections namin to the grid. In our case, in similar cases, how is the DOE intervening to adapt to make sure that kung ano pa rin, na stable pa rin yung power outputs in our place and in other places?
Thank you for that question. Visayas is special, no? Meron kang 4 na islands. Tapos puro end of the line sila. So we have requested the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines to prepare what we call zonal reserves. Dapat nandun sa island mismo yung reserve, hindi natatawid ng submarine cable. So they're going to submit that and then we will change the kind of reserve in those 4 islands in Visayas. And that will really be a game changer.
Mainly as one po yung islands na yun.
Panay, Negros, Cebu, at saka
May isa pa question, ma'am. Last na lang, very short lang naman. Yung distribution utility in Iloilo City More Power is planning to connect to a power gorge from Luzon on the end of the Department of Energy. Ano yung status?
wala pa kami natatanggap na ganun request.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Salamat po. Yes, ma'am. 2 more.
Hi ma'am, I'm Ian Gozon po from Rappler. So I actually cover environment and climate bago po kasi energy, pero dahil mag-renewable po tayo. So yung question ko po is about offshore wind. At least from what I gathered po, bakit po kaya considered na special child yung offshore wind among other sources of renewable? Tapos, Gaano po katagal or how long does it take po average to get offshore wind projects approved? Tapos pwede pa makahingi ng more details on GAIA 5, which you said will happen po next year, tapos offshore wind po yung layers.
Okay. But first question, di siya co-compete with food. Kasi pag solar, ilang hectares? 1 hectare, 1 megawatt. So 100 megawatts, 100 hectares. Pero yung offshore wind, pag nilagay mo dun sa offshore, wala kang land na i-cover. So that is the primary reason. Tapos yung availability factor niya compared to solar is much higher. 16% solar, ang wind can go from 30 to about 50% availability. Tapos di ba malakas ang wind natin? So that's number 2 is
How long does it take po to get up?
ayan, tanongin mo yung mga developers mamaya. Huwag ngayon, mamaya mas ang galing sila sumagot.
Yung sa GAIA 5 po, ma'am.
Si GAIA 5 yung initial naming estimate, mga 3,000 to 6,000 megawatts ang ating magiging auction.
Thanks po.
Thank you. Actually, part ng question ko, go ahead. Part ng question ko dapat yan, magpapa-illustrate. Paano ba nangyayari yung sinasabi mong offshore wind? Ilang metro siya from the shore? Itutusok ba yan sa dagat? Naka-fluid ba yan? Paano ba yan? Paano siya magta-transmit ng energy?
Sasagutin lahat ng mga offshore wind developers.
Okay, so we will have a session with our offshore wind developers. Okay, go ahead na. Sorry.
Good morning po, Yosef. Menzi Montas from Radio Mindanao Network Incorporated, Cagayan de Oro. Ma'am, sinabi niyo po kanina na maybe po sa fourth quarter, sa residents ako ma'am kasi sila sa mga residents ko yung mga target, residential. Sinabi niyo kanina na magbababa posible ang kuryente by fourth quarter.
Magbababa ng presyo.
Hindi, medyo magbababa yung mga gamit na mga residential.
Sa consumption.
Sa consumption po. Pero as pag-asa, from this month to maybe September, nasa transition na tayo ngayon. So, sobrang malamig. And by October, sinabi pa rin nila na parang maglalinya na. So, this month ba, sa monitoring po ng DOA, posible pong medyo hindi mataas yung gamit ng residential ngayon. Sa tingin niyo po?
Depende kasi kung nasaan kang island eh. Kasi remember, ang bagyo nga una Luzon, tapos by December saka palang Mindanao eh. So kunyari sa Luzon, nag-i-improve na yung presyo ng kuryente. Susunod na yung Visayas, tapos uli yung Mindanao. Ganun talaga yung the way it works.
Follow up po ma'am, sa Cagayan de Oro, may gumagamit na ng mga solar. Ang problema namin ngayon, kahit sa mga business sector like Energy na kausap ko yung president nila, may mga nagbibigta online na yung mga solar. Tapos hindi pa lang legit. Yun kasi ang malaking
May maganda akong sagot dyan. Punta sa Department of Energy website, magsulat doon yung mga hindi flyby na.
Ano ba yung disadvantage pagka hindi legit ang mga individual?
Asa baka mamaya after 1 month, sira na yung panel mo, sira na yung dandan mo. O kaya baka mali connection, makuryente na.
Thank you po. Thank you
Thank
sa
you, ma'am. May nagre-regulate ba sa sale ng, I think that's a good point. Is there a regulator in the selling of solar panels or anyone can just sell?
Nasa-certify ang DOE, kaya yung nakalista lang doon, yung lang yung mga legitimate ng mga sellers ng mga panels. Saka meron kaming testing facility, kailangan pumapasa din.
Okay, that's good. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning po. My name is Mel from Nueva Ecija. Una po, salamat sa ganito. Sana maulit-ulit. Kasi kaming mga taga-probinsya po ay marami kaming karanasan sa tawag ko ng ating mga kababayan. Ang itatanong ko po ay tungkol sa halaga ng kuryente. Siguro pwede yung
Nandun yung sasagot sa'yo o si Chair. But anyway, you said so.
Ang una po, ang sabi po sa amin ng ilang mga electric company, ang dati nilang ginagamit ay renewable energy. Pero dahil natapos ang kontrata, ang taas po ng tinaas. From 2,300 to 6,700. Ang tanong ko po sana, kapag ba natapos sa renewable energy yung kanilang kontrata, hindi mo yun maibabalik agad na yun uli ang gagamitin?
Meron po tayong tinatawag na competitive selection process, yung diniscuss ko kanina. So dapat 2 years bago mag-end yung contract, nag-bidding out na dapat yung distribution utility ninyo para malaman sino yung papalit na supplier. Tapos, syempre bidding yun, yung lowest yung mananalo. So, kung cooperative yan, dapat manood kayo kung paano nila kinokontak yung kanilang competitive
Yung po iba, hindi cooperative.
Private.
Kahit na private siya, andin. Kailangan siya sumunod doon sa competitive selection process.
Tapos isang paglilinaw na po, nakalagay kasi sa notice na ang pagtataas ng kuryente ay hindi ginagawa kung hindi pinapayagan ng ERC.
Pero po si Chairman na
We discuss the chair. That's part of the discussion. Okay?
Po.
Thank you. Maraming
Sige po, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Salamat po. Go ahead.
Good morning. I am Rides Marsha, correspondent of Manila Times based in Bicol Region. Ma'am, what is the future of renewable energy amid climate change, the impact of disaster in 2050?
Hirap yung tanong mo.
Miss Universe na. Ano daw yung future ng renewable energy vis-a-vis sa climate change?
Yeah, kasi hindi mo talaga siya ma-direct connect eh. Like for example, if you look at the nations with the highest GHG emissions, did you know that 2/3 of our GHG emission come only from 10 countries? Tapos ang Philippines, yung ating emission, number 38 pa tayo eh. 0.05% lang tayo. Liit-liit lang eh. Kanya nga lang, tayo yung isa sa mga devastated countries because of climate change. Pero alala niyo dati, walang bagyo sa Mindanao. Alala ko nung bata ko, bagyo lang sa Luzon, at saka minsan sa Visayas, pero ngayon hanggang Mindanao, and that's climate change for you. Now, pagka wala tayong energy security using indigenous energy sources like renewable, may danger sa atin na baka hindi dumating yung delivery ng fuel, fossil fuel. Then mahihirapan tayo, tataas na naman ang presyo ng kuryente. So, in your question, we have to do our part. We have to do our share. Meron tayong nationally determined contribution, sabi natin, limiting reduction. So we have to increase renewables para bumaba talaga yung GHG emission natin. And we know that coal is the largest GHG emitter when it comes to the power sector.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pagpapala sana kayo ng we are running out of
Yeah, thank you. Maraming salamat.
Good morning.
What is your name?
I'm Butingilan from Rappler and Panay News.
Thank you, Ruben.
I will be asking questions for the sake of the Negros Island region. It is said that Negros may standby for renewable energy na 600 megawatts. Upcoming is the 69 megawatts of Citycore and 100 megawatts of the floating solar from Incari City. Then we have the Just Energy Transition Council for the renewable transition. But the Negros businessmen are still crying that this 600 megawatt na standby RE capacity parang hindi reliable. So they are dreaming of 450 megawatts base load power plant or power sources doon sa Negros Island in order to attain the quest for energy security.
From coal yun.
Yeah.
Against
Again, based on also from
what? Ano?
So, what's the taboo? We speak about renewable energy because we have a much capacity right now in Negros Island. But the Negros businessmen are not dependable, not available.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I know that there were problems before in Negros. Curtailed yung kanilang renewable kasi yung transmission line available was only half of the capacity. Pero na-solve na yung problem na yun. But now you're talking about reliability. Kailangan mo talaga ng energy storage systems. So kailangan mo either battery, pump storage hydro, pwede ding flywheel.